I'm going to explain to you what happened to me in 2005. This is the series, Let Me Tell You How I Died. My brother had a friend that was always around. He was always trying to talk to me. He would try to get me to take his number or give him my number. I used to joke to myself that he was like Steve Urkel. He was always trying to wear me down until he finally did. At the time, my mother owned a triplex and I was renting the second floor apartment from her. My mother didn't approve of me talking to my brother's friend because of his record, but he explained to me that he was only in jail for death by receiving. So because of this, no one really knew that he and I were together. And from late July 2005 until October 2005, I thought everything was fine. So the person that was always around my brother and me in private went radio silent. And when he went radio silent in October 2005, there was really no one for me to tell. So I was left confused until Thanksgiving Day 2005 when my car was vandalized. The police wanted to know if there was anyone who drove my car besides me, and I gave them his number. All he did was laugh about my car being vandalized, and nothing was the same after that. Although at that point I knew that he was okay, I just took it as he just wasn't that into me, and that's why he ghosted me. Approximately 8 months after the vandalism, I moved out of the state. Even though I moved over the years, he kept in contact with me. But see, none of that tells you how I died. I have to fast forward the story a bit to tell you how I died in 2005. Up until February 6, 2018, I went all of my teenage years and adult life without using marijuana and only being drunk once. So I wasn't a drinker and I didn't use any illicit drugs at all. So being that I was grown, I decided to try smoking when my younger sister asked me if I wanted to join her. So again, this was February 6, 2018. I really had no clue what I was doing, but when the effects started to kick in, I remember thinking to myself, wow, this is what it's like being high. I've never been high before. And then that's when I immediately corrected myself and said, yes, I have. And then I had a flashback. And the flashback that I had was very graphic. It was an aerial view of me above my body and my ex while he was violating me. Then I just remember being overwhelmingly sad because not only was I confused, I just could not understand why I was having these images pop up in my head, especially 13 years later. The only thing I could think to do afterwards was confront him about it. I called him and I asked him if he had access to roofies. He said maybe. Why? I then asked him if he's ever used them on anyone. He started to laugh and then said he was going to call me back. Spoiler alert, he never called me back. Let me tell you exactly what happened in October 2005 before he went radio silent. It was a Friday night and I was home getting ready for bed. He came over unannounced and with him he had a large plastic cup from Burger King. He told me that it was alcohol in the cup and I drank from that cup. When he saw that the alcohol and the drug was taking effect, that's when he went into action. I was placed over the side of my bed where I was violated. And then this is the point where my point of view went from me being face down in the bed to where I'm looking down at both of our bodies. I see him panic, put me into my bed, and then leave. After that point, that's when my view changed and I was in a dark room with nothing but screens all around me. And on each screen was an event in my life. Being in that room with all of the screens, I was able to focus into one screen, and just focusing on one screen, it brought me to that event in my timeline. And that event in my timeline was actually 5 years in my future when villain number 2 put me in the hospital. I had an aerial view of me looking down at myself in a hospital bed and someone, a male, in a white t-shirt, blue jeans, to the right side, crying and pleading to bring her back. I don't know how long I was on the other side for. All I can assume is that I went into cardiac arrest and that's why he panicked and he left and that's why he was radio silent up until Thanksgiving 2005 when my car was vandalized and he was contacted by the police. I just remember waking up the next morning and I was groggy and I went to the bathroom and I was in a lot of pain. And it didn't make sense to me why I was in so much pain and why I was bleeding out of my rectum. Being that it was a Saturday, I was supposed to work my part-time job, but I was just too out of it to go in, so I called out and I went back to sleep. For 4 years, I struggled with this. I wanted to make sure before I said anything that these were true memories and not false memories, but it was pretty clear to me I can't make up a flashback, let alone make up a flashback that corroborates with the time frame of when I woke up on a Saturday morning with unexplained rectal pain and bleeding. So the only thing I could do after coming to terms with this was tell my brother about his friend. And my brother chose his friend.